not ready.
Got to warm up, I think. Okay, we're all set.
Like to call this meeting to order. HPC meeting today is January 11th, 10th,
10th. yeah.
January
Mhm.
10th. Thank you. So call roll. Jeff. Hawes is here. Okay, Will Rodebush here. John Sappin here. Chris Moen is ill today, and Christina, we hope will.
It's
still be
pending.
alive. Right. Okay, approval. So I'm acting as chair in place of Chris Moen. And I'd like to see if we have a motion to approve the minutes.
Had one word I think needs changed on the page one, item 4C. I think it's passed the ordinance unanimously instead of anonymous. They didn't want to be known. That's it, but they look good.
I like that.
Aside from errors, is the level of detail
Yeah, I think-
useful?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's great.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I think
Thanks.
the things that,
Points.
for example, friends say to us,
Yeah.
otherwise
Oh,
they're
yeah,
not going
no,
to be recorded.
I think just bullet points or points, yeah.
That's very good. Thank you. So do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion that we approve the November 22nd meeting minutes.
And I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, no one is opposed. Next meeting will be February 28th, 4:00. And I think that should be 2023.
Yes,
Okay.
already changed it in the
Okay.
minutes.
So moving on, local destinations. University Hall, we've had some movement on it. Have I been copying you on that, Heather? I don't know if you've gotten.
You sent me the latest email, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
with Laura Moore.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a response finally from the president has designated Laura, who's the head of donor relations at the university, to work with us in designing and producing some kind of a plaque for University Hall. So we were just talking briefly before the meeting about having two or three of us go and meet with her, and both Will and Jeff would be willing to do that. So, and myself. So I will see if I can set that up.
Sounds good.
Sooner, for me, is better than later.
Mhm.
Because, this week is not too busy. Next week is teaching and it's horrible. So I'll see what I can do on that. Greetings. Wood County Courthouse and former jail building inventory. I don't have any details on that.
It was all
I
done, think.
have details. Basically, we're waiting on Chris to provide some little more details on the architecture of the various sides. Mhm. So she sent that to me yesterday. And I just need to mesh that with the latest copy. I think she had used a former version and I had a version that had several pages of history on it. So my goal is to get that done soon and then we'll be done with that one.
That's already been approved, right? Has that gone? to-
Right, we've got the MOU
City
signed
Council.
and, yep, just a matter of sticking that in our local register, so we have that with the MOU.
Great. And that information goes into your computer? Is that where we keep it?
Yes, mhm,
Okay.
yes. We have a notebook too, and
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, that's letter B. Letter C, 328 East Court Street. Do we have an update on that?
That was,
yes, so that ordinance was passed. And also I have something for you all to sign at the end about that, if you don't mind.
Okay. So that's gone through council and is there I can't remember, we have to do a public hearing for that?
No, that one's all
That's
done.
all
Council,
done.
yeah,
Complete.
passed that. Yep.
Okay.
I just had a nice little thing that Chris Mullen wrote that thought we'd have you sign.
For,
Just didn't want to spoil the surprise.
okay, so we do that now or afterward?
After, yeah. Mhm.
Great. Is that something we will want to read also or? No, okay. Excellent. And then letter D, boom, unless there's something else on the house, I think we're good. Boomtown districts are continuing with our strategic plan. There's been no huge movement on this, but I did talk with Heather earlier today and I made a call to Nathan Bevel in Columbus, asking about the method of doing a survey of a community in our ordinance. Just as a reminder, it says that the commission shall conduct a written survey by certified mail of all owners of property within a proposed historic district and include the results of the survey in its written recommendation to city council. And what we're proposing to do, we haven't officially agreed on this, but I think we're all on the same page, is start with the North Maple, the two streets, North Maple, and produce some kind of a survey that we can then mail out. I guess that would come from your office. Is that right, Heather?
Yes, it does say by certified mail. So yes, we would do that.
Okay. And you would have all the addresses, the appropriate addresses for that street, those streets.
Correct. We would look those up
Okay.
depending on what, if you want to have a penciled in border that you want us to draft addresses
you're-
from.
Looked at going up north to Conneaut.
Yeah, Will and I had a informal walk around on North Maple, a couple weeks? 3
Yeah,
weeks
right
ago?
after the
Last meeting, I think. Yeah. And just to examine whether it's appropriate to do one block or there's two blocks there between Worcester and Conneaut. And the opportunity is to do one or both blocks. I know Will feels like both blocks are
I think,
appropriate.
yeah. I think one thing when we were walking that we'd see something that looked historic, but then the address be Wallace. So we're thinking, well, then you'd exclude that, say, from the Maple Street district and then work on like a Wallace district.
Just going with the homes that
Mhm.
base.
That
directly
actual
on the
address
road.
is on as Maple Street.
Right.
I know some businesses, but we weren't sure whether some of the business could have some kind of history up towards Conneaut, the cleaners. I mean, some of those could have been, had some historic significance over its life. I don't know.
Is the building still there that was data chip factory? There was one right there
On Maple?
on Maple.
Really?
Yeah, or right near there. You recall that, Dale?
Maples, North Maple?
Near Conneaut and Maple, there was,
What was, the city's water and sewer divisions
Yeah.
there? Was that what you're
No,
thinking?
no.
Okay.
I might be,
Well, the.
the dry cleaner's been there a long time. That's the one that's most likely historical. I'll have to check.
Okay,
and look
all
at-
right, if there is.
Because my memory doesn't quite recall whether
Well, Kane's Potato
building-
Chips was on
Yeah,
Napoleon, right?
yeah, but there was a
Yeah.
smaller one in that
Oh, I didn't know.
neighborhood. I remember smelling it.
Would the survey go to business addresses also if we feel the business address had a historic significance?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that they may not be quite as excited about this,
Mhm.
but certainly
some
we
of
can
them-
make that decision about.
Yeah, it may end up just more of like the architectural features aren't there as much as say on the houses, but it could be just a historic site.
I mean, that makes it kind of that struggle we've talked with Chris before about, what comes first, the the survey or the building inventory, which we wouldn't have the
Right.
building inventories on probably that block. We might have some on North Maple from Boomtown. So maybe that's a short building inventory, a modified building inventory.
Or would you do the building inventory of the individuals that said yes, on the survey? In other words, not necessarily do an inventory of all the buildings or houses, properties, but
I guess we could do either way. Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice if we can encourage that whole street, but we'll have to see how how they react. What now what do we call it? The Waterworks building across the street from the cleaners. What is that? The city work?
building.
Oh, water sewer division.
Water sewer. Was that building a glass factory at one point or on that site? Okay, we'll.
I'm
we'll have
not
to
sure.
discover. We think there was perhaps a.
That's also where the train track.
Yeah.
runs.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Okay, so I think as far as that project goes, are we all in agreement that we want to start with that as our
I think
first
it'll be good.
historic district?
Yeah.
Okay,
One thing we have going for us, I think, is there's, at least in the first block, there's a lot of sort of neighborhood spirit there, so they might have a sense of themselves being,
Yeah.
together in that.
they do.
Yeah.
That's my street.
Yeah, sure. Of course, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Here I'm telling you, but I know Tom Knox and Anissa Miller, so.
Right. So the next step would be to draft a document that could be mailed out. Do we have any volunteer to take that on?
Chris.
No,
That's what John and I talked about. If you're
Yeah,
not here.
We decided if you're not here, you get elected to the chair of another big committee.
I've been sliding by doing minutes and not much else, and so I'd be happy to work on that.
That would be great. Thank you. Yeah, we don't have a model. I don't know that we need to go into a lot of detail. Pretty much, I don't think we want to slant this one way or the other. We want to be just very matter of fact about what we propose to do, but we may want to have a little bit of information about the historic district and what that means.
What that means, yeah,
Yeah. What the obligations would be
Exactly, yeah.
if you're a part of this.
And Jeff, maybe if you take a first draft at it, then I can help.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And, we have a newer city attorney that maybe he could give us some guidance too.
That'd be great.
But I see it similar to a petition for rezoning or, I don't think it has to be much detail, but I do think, again, the statement of I'm in support and a signature would
Mhm.
probably be key to having a quote vote, for lack of better terminology, to at least get you started.
Do you think we need yes, I am in favor, and then another line, no, I am not in favor? Do we need both?
Not necessarily. I think the yeses, but I don't know. It's a good question. I think we can think about it some
Okay,
more.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. So if we can get that in place next meeting, and then Heather can mail that out, we'll start getting some immediate, well, I hope immediate feedback.
Maybe you could email us, since you're the chair today, but to offer suggestions to Jeff. So that way it'd go to Chris and Christina. Because you and I were talking a little bit before the meeting about some of the things that felt were important about kind of stressing that it's trying to be friendly doing this, and we're trying to, like architectural features, we're trying to maybe be able to offer suggestions and in order to keep it as historic looking as possible. And
One of the benefits of
Yes,
being part
yeah.
of.
As you
Mhm.
talk, I almost see a separate little flyer that we could use for elsewhere in the city, right? And then the actual petition or survey would be a form in its own. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like we could use that for other places.
Some kind of an informational, this will be coming, and we could distribute that in advance and then.
And it could maybe be some of the things we've talked about, the myths about well, I thought I was already Boomtown and I thought I was
Yeah,
already on
I'm
the
a-
National Register. So maybe it's kind of more of the myths of, okay, well, here's local designation versus what the National Register means. And I think that would be helpful
Yep.
to just have that exercise done for other spots.
Because I think Rose Drain had quite a few pointers in there, the questions and things we
Mhm.
could include in that.
Great. Any other discussion on that?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, so we'll move forward with that. We can be thinking also about where we might go next, but let's get that one, let's get that one done first. Hopefully that will go through without too much problem. Okay, item 5 is Friends of the HPC Historic Buildings of the Month. And Heather, we were just hearing about your helping prepare the next building.
Yeah,
Or
so.
is it out now?
Yeah,
Okay,
well, no, not out. So we have to turn everything in at least 30 days in advance. So I turned that in pretty much before the holidays.
Okay.
So yes, we'll
But-
be featuring the Chittister Theater, which was also the BG Opera House, which is also called Delmar Theater. So yeah, that's since burned down, obviously, but I think it'll be a neat tie to 707 West Wooster Street.
Excellent. Thank you for
Mhm.
pushing that forward. And that comes out at the end of the month, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next, let's see, the next one would be, it's in our minutes here.
Yeah,
That was Mary's Mills, Rose Drain.
Yeah, and Rose sent a message that she will be coming at some point. We can see how that's, I know she was doing some research today and the last couple of days on this, so we'll get more of an update from her when she's here. We're moving right along. Interpretive signage project. We might get stalled on this one.
Okay, so I've had a lot going on with that too, believe it or not. So what I did was, so for the CLG grant, we need to have some sort of budget, obviously. And I reached out to Fast Signs just because that's who the Wood County Museum used. And Marissa gave me her contact. So that made it real simple because they understood in general the project and what we were thinking about. And so I think I forwarded you a quote that we could work off of. And I also signed up for an account because now the CLG grant is online. So the city has an account. We have to log in and I have a password and that's how we fill out the application. So I got that started a bit. I haven't really got to the meat of it yet, but I think just, who's in charge of finance for the community, who's the CEO of the community, just the general information I've gotten filled out, but we're going to need to get again to the meat of that. But what I did was, you look here at the quote. So after getting the price, which maybe you all have it quicker than I do. Okay. So the first quote I got was initially for a lower amount of signs, but it came back kind of low, I thought. And I wanted us to get to our maximum grant application just because I thought this is a great opportunity for the city. And I felt like the most signs, the better for our community to be, again, an educational type of program, economic development, tourism. I really think a lot can happen with that. So we got a quote for actually 12 single-sided signs on pedestal mounts plus the installation. So that came at $28,807.80. So again, I think it gives us some wiggle room though, because the city still has to do their match. But what I envision is that perhaps we have 2 on each block. So 2 on one side of South Main Street, 2 on the other side of South Main Street, and the same for North Main Street, and then 2 on West Wooster and 2 on East Wooster. So I think what we need to do from here is that we talked about getting together with John and Chris and I, and perhaps Dick Martin. I know he's out of town, but he expressed interest in helping us with the descriptions of the history of those blocks. That way we can kind of basically plot out where we think these should go. And then from there, I think as part of the application, we should highlight a few of those buildings in each block that we want to talk about. For example, the Milliken, I think that would probably be a natural fit for a sign on that block. And I was looking at Athens application because they did a very similar CLG grant for this year. And I thought it was helpful to follow their outline and some of their ideas they used for, okay, we're focusing on this building. Here's the history, here's a developer. And it just made sense that we kind of follow what they did a little bit. But obviously with our own Bowling Green history. So I think we have a good start. The deadline is March 31st. They literally just put out the online application. I think I forwarded it to you, was on January 6th. So I think it's very doable. It's going to be a lot of work. No joke here. I think you guys have a really big appetite, and I'm just pointing out the realities of, designating local properties and doing this grant has a lot of responsibility, a lot of reporting, just keeping track of all the red tape. I read more into it and I got a little nervous, quite honestly, but I think it's really important project for the community and moving historic preservation forward.
Can you help us structure all this work? I mean, what would you suggest we do first?
So I think really the description of the project is going to be key. So I printed out basically their outline online, which the outline's 13 pages, by the way. So it's definitely not simple, but I think it's doable. So I think, again, it would be basically, I think the project schedule, and really details. I think if you look back at Athens, they had a good description. And another thing is that the project roles and responsibilities. So you're supposed to have a project, I guess we'll call it coordinator or manager, that meets the Federal Register for historic preservation. And so I almost might want to twist Chris's arm a little bit to have her name on there as an architect, or Will, if you prefer. But I think it'll be real critical that we meet one of those criteria of the grant. And of course, I would be your city contact and happy to do so. But I think, again, really the meat of the project and getting that written up. And there's also a point system that's part of the outline that will help us, I think, guide some of the criteria we use. For example, economic development is really important to a goal of the grant. So clearly that would help with that. But I think education is going to be critical to really focus on, that we're educating our community.
Do you think we need to be as extensive as Athens? I mean, they do have a lot of text here. I see the project description.
I think we just have to make sure we're meeting the criteria listed in the CLG grant by that outline. I think as long as we're hitting that, we're fine. Theirs is a little more in depth because they have a whole, I guess you'd call it more of an interactive podcast
Right.
type of feel to it, and a whole other web page, which that would not necessarily be a part of this. I think we would have a city web page linked to it, maybe other partnerships linked to it, but not the audio at this point. I mean, maybe down the road we would, but
Mhm.
not part of the grant.
Okay, well, the subcommittee on this was supposed to be me and Christina. Christina's not here. It'd be nice to talk with her about that. I will make contact with her. I know I had started some kind of minimal text. And I don't know if any of this is work. I don't know if you read this or not, Christine, Heather, but I can re-tackle that, and I can start adding more to the abstract. Now, what kind of research do we have to do on these buildings? So,
That will be a big part of it, but I think that's something that someone like Dick Martin can help us do. I know he volunteered before,
Yeah.
that he would be happy to help. I almost think that it's something we could be doing while we apply for the grant, but I think getting the grant application down first should be our priority. And then from there, we can start looking at the history. Now, as I read it, the sign company, we'd have to also have a bid process for that. So again, there's some other steps we have to take while we're doing some other work. But as far as the bid, they would also design the signs, but obviously we would provide the content and then look for pictures of that block and or buildings or whatever we want to do. But I think we can break this down. I know Chris Mowen wanted us, John, to maybe walk together downtown and kind of sketch out some potential locations. And I think we could do that hopefully sometime this month.
sure. Okay. My really big question here is, so do we have to do this research on the buildings before the grant goes in?
I don't think so, no.
I'm hoping not.
No, I think we should just highlight some of the buildings of each block.
And we already
No,
have.
for example, the Milliken Hotel
And
was
we
built in this era
we have
and
some historical information
Right.
already. We can plug that in.
exactly.
Hi, Rose.
And look at East Wooster, we could highlight the old armory that used to exist and maybe the Ross Hotel that was part of the
Mhm.
fabric of the community at one point in time. And just, not only existing buildings, but buildings of the past.
Thought of Howard's Club H, which used to be a livery stable.
There you go.
And up at the top, they still have the old architecture.
Mhm.
Good.
Apparently, I was talking to Elizabeth Gear, and their
Hmm.
law office is on the corner.
Right.
She offered a tour like of the third floor.
Mm.
Apparently, that used to be a speakeasy
Mm.
back during Prohibition.
Mm.
So the thing is still on the door that you had to open up to.
Interesting.
Norm Gear's office.
Up above,
Yeah.
apparently up above the next floor up. That you didn't know about, and the people didn't know about, whatever. Certain people did.
Yeah, we could put together a little walking tour. Maybe we can have
Those-
tickets. We
the
can sell
ghost-
tickets and.
Ghosts
make
of
some money.
Bowling Green, yeah, Ghosts of Bowling Green.
Good. Okay, so Heather, you and Chris and I will find a warm day when we can walk downtown and do some planning on that. Okay,
Sounds good.
so I'll be in touch. Okay, public relations and educational projects. Future workshops, events, audio tour. I don't have any information on that. I think Christina was,
So I think on that one. So
was
I
that
think
Chri-
his
was that
name
Chris?
was, Chris Mowen had received a draft of a script from Ted Long for the audio tour. And I think she was going to email it to the rest of you. I looked at it and had some initial comments, nothing major. And then, like I said, I think she's going to share it with you all for any additional feedback. And then from there, get back to Ted. So there is movement on that,
Okay.
which is really exciting.
Good.
And it was really, if I remember right, it was just basically starting at Trinity United Methodist Church, going down Court Street, reviewing the courthouse, and then hitting North Main Street, and then swinging back around onto Wooster and then Prospect. So yeah, it's definitely, I have the script somewhere here printed, but again, I don't think it's really in a
and
final format yet.
remind me how this is going to work. Were there going to be headsets or is it going to be on a phone?
So as I believe, it's an app that he would sell, but yet he doesn't keep the proceeds. He donates them back to the organization that he's working with. So in his mind, he's donating it back to the HBC for your use.
Nice.
Yeah, seems like it'd be a exciting project
good.
and could be expanded if it goes well.
Preservation Month, May, it seems far off, but it will come fast. Workshop on historic tax credits. Chris Moen was on that.
So we actually did have, Chris and I had a Zoom call with Sam and Nathan from the State Historic Preservation Office about a date. They're really eager to come to Bowling Green and present about tax credits. And we landed on a couple dates that work for this room. So it's a question of, do they work for you all that you can attend and help promote? So the two dates were February 8th and February 15th. Now, the only other issue is that Sam and Nathan driving from Columbus didn't want to, it was too hard for them to get here by 8 a.m. they felt, so they were hoping for more of a 10 a.m. or after time. And so I know if Chris was here, she would ask your feedback on what you think for timing. Should it be maybe 10 a.m.? Should it be a lunch, kind of a lunch and learn, or should it be a 4 p.m. or an evening session? Now, if we turn into an evening though, those would be potential issues because we do have potentially planning commission and zoning board those nights. So that's, originally we were looking at a first thing in the morning type of session. So I don't know if there's initial thoughts on that.
What day are those?
Wednesday.
It's gonna be a problem for me during the day, but if we have enough of our committee that can be there, I think a daytime would be workable.
I'm open to either.
So we know at least two
It's
people.
A good day for me too, is Wednesday. Yeah.
I know
Okay.
Chris has been talking about this is her busiest time of the year and she may not be available either, but
Well, should we already kind of funneled those
Oh.
2 dates?
so maybe
Yeah.
she's okay with that.
Yeah, she should
Okay.
be okay. We were, I think, looking for input
Okay.
for timing wise, which you thought would be the best. I don't know if there's ever a best time for everyone, but maybe some initial feedback.
What time do you think it would be best for the public to come? 1 o'clock?
I mean, the hard part is it's really, they're going to be geared towards building owners
Right.
that are income producing. So, the average homeowner, they're not going to really benefit from that unless it's income producing. So it's more of the business community, really.
So anytime after 10 o'clock probably is fine.
Okay.
What's good for you?
I'm flexible.
Well, how long, what should it be?
We don't know that for sure. We're guessing about an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay, so
Yeah.
done by noon. then.
Shall we just invent a time? Or do you want to talk with Chris some more?
Yeah,
on
we
that?
could do that. If you're open to whatever time and
Okay.
fine.
10 o'clock.
Yeah,
That's fine.
10 o'clock sounds right.
Okay.
to me.
Great. We're settling a lot of things here
Yeah.
today. Tell your BG history session. We do that every meeting.
Mhm.
no update on those as far as I know.
Okay. No update. Okay, and yard signs, we had talked about like just some supportive historic signs around town.
Yeah,
And again, I
right.
don't think, was there any update on that?
So I've been working with internally, remember Hallie, who was here before on behalf of the city that helps us with our communications. So I've been talking with her. So we did get a quote for some yard signs. She's able to design those. I thought I emailed, maybe I didn't email it yet. I had drafted an outline of planning ahead of time before we get to the May that kind of who does what, and again, the deadline of when we need a response by for the public if they do want to sign for their yard or their historic building. And so we did draft some of that. I drafted an initial press release, so we're going to need 2 of them. So one being the request for owners to want to be part of this educational yard sign program. And if so, a deadline for that. So we have a few weeks to plan, again, to order the signs, but also get those to them in their yard or again, inside their window if it's downtown. And then time to make sure we get the history on our city webpage. So we envision, hopefully just a small picture of the property and then 1 or 2 sentences or so about the property. So I think our goal is though, we're going to really need you all to be conduits to the community. And, maybe that's knocking on your neighbor's door and saying, hey, your house is historic. In my eyes, it was built in 1901 and, are you interested in having a yard sign? And then we can work with them on the history unless they already have a history. So I don't know if you want to have initial goal. I mean, do you have a goal of 25 signs, 50 signs? It'd kind of be nice to have a matrix that we're trying to hit. But I think we could look at our historic buildings of the month. I
Mhm.
already talked to the county administrator and she said, send me the information and we'll see if we're willing to do a sign in their property. 707 West Wooster, just trying to look back at histories we already have that we could put on the website and then have a sign in the yard.
Some of
So,
the, like the houses that were part of the tour,
Mhm.
the historic tour, those could be good.
yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Because there's history already. And the homeowners usually pretty much know they were on that tour. Their house was probably on the tour. They already know about it.
Right. Yep. Very true.
give some thought to like the sign, there was House or you House? House,
That's, Dale.
Dale. Oh, Dale, okay, because living in the past was a suggestion and then House said the past is present. I thought a couple of like having BG or Bowling Green, past and present or past to present, like Bowling Green past to present. I thought about present to past and I thought, no, that's, do you talk about the past first and, up to today? But I thought that was some good titles that had passed in. The past is present or then and now.
So I gave Hallie originally the quote that you came up with, which history lives here.
Okay.
And so she was going to design the signs around those,
That's
but
fine.
certainly she hasn't gotten that far yet.
I
But
think that's
it
fine.
seemed like that
History-
was brought up last
I
time.
couldn't
And
remember when that came up, but I realized, oh, there is
Yeah.
one there that is good.
Yeah, that's
History
something.
lives here. I
Yeah,
prefer it
that's-
over anything I suggested.
so I'll send you out the timeline. I'll send you out, I drafted 2 press releases so far, again, for the first announcement and then towards end of March when that would need to go out about May. We don't know if we're going to get a map done though. It just depends on how many people we get. But again, as a first step for this, people could save their signs until next year and they could be reused.
Mhm.
So we just see a lot of visibility come out of this, which I think is really good. And that could lead to other, big adventures, right, with historic preservation. I also have a radio interview already set, so we can announce the program in May and ask for signs. And then again, closer to May, when we can encourage people to, drive around town or walk around town or bike around town and look for these properties. So I think we have a good head start on the program. And if you have any other ideas, let me know.
Maybe we could get on Clint Corp's.
That's what I
program.
meant.
Yeah.
We're on Clint's show.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. I'm
Yes,
sorry. I
I'm
was
sorry.
thinking, no, I was thinking about something else and
Yeah.
didn't hear it.
Yep. So I think we're, looks like got a good start on that. And we also reached out to the library. They don't have anything planned for May, for Preservation Month, but if they do, they'll let us know. And then I talked to Marissa at the museum and they do have a few things planned. So we thought we could put that as part of our press release, a joint press release for National Preservation Month. So again, I think we have a good start on it.
Great. Thank you for putting that together. Speaking of the museum, was there any support coming from, I know you had sent a message around. Did anybody come through with some financial or legwork to, no?
I haven't heard anything about that. I
Okay.
know that's been a big issue
Yeah,
there with
yeah.
their frozen pipes
Mhm.
and yeah,
Had a lot of property damage. I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's too
Yeah.
bad.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are at our lobby visitation.
I'm Rose Drain. So I was not here for the part of the meeting where you talked about her historic building of the month.
Heather gave us an update on that. Shall we review it one more time? Maybe just mention for Rose.
I don't think we did the whole thing, but Chris had sent her schedule that she had.
Which I incorporated into the
You ha-
minutes. The last minutes.
Page
Okay,
2.
maybe that's where I saw it.
Page
Okay,
2.
gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, so we submitted the ones for end of January about the theaters. And then I made you copies of Marriage Mill articles that you wanted if you're going to work on February. And who else do we have?
I know you were doing some research today. Yes, on that. Do you
Yeah.
have any
Um,
thing to share?
I just don't know. I think it was Dale who mentioned that Jimmy Hoffa was married in the house at 126 North Prospect. Did you say that at the last meeting? Okay, well, so I spoke. Yeah, I spoke to her the other day and she did not tell me that she knew that she said, you know, it was rumored. Dick Martin wrote, yeah, but it doesn't refer to the. Yes, and I went to the courthouse today and I saw his marriage license, but unfortunately it does not name the specific place within the city where he and his lovely bride were married. So it was interesting, though. I did find out that she was also a labor organizer. But they supposedly both came down from Detroit to get married. Anyhow, so I can put something together from the various sources regarding the marriage mill activity.
There was a presentation about that at the last Living History Day.
Uh-huh.
And that's, I might have had that idea of Jimmy Hoffa, that house
Okay.
from there. And the person who writes those is Millie, whose last name.
Krasow.
Okay.
Yeah.
From the Historical Society.
Right. And so I want to speak with Millie, but I don't have a phone number for
Okay.
her. And also John Cleaver grew up in that house. So I figure if he may know, but I don't have a phone number for him either. The one I have is for Vanderhoff Jewelers, which his family no longer owns.
Dick Martin or Mike Siberson might have Millie's phone number.
Okay.
Well, no, maybe I'm mixing things up. That's the Genealogical Society. I don't know how involved she is there, but the museum would. Right?
Were you able to reach somebody at the museum today?
I emailed Marissa, but she didn't get back to me, but we were
Okay.
just saying they're probably
I
pretty busy.
Well, I did
Yeah.
talk to someone at the museum today and her name is Heidi, I think. And Heidi said she would email John Cleaver's brother who lives in Colorado. But I said, you know, the Historic Planning Commission is really waiting with bated breath for this article since we want it to be the February article. And so I think maybe Millie Krasow and John Cleaver are our best. So I guess I'll contact Mr. Siverson and see if he's got Millie's phone number.
Not, you could just say rumor has it that.
Right.
Yeah, right. So, right. Okay, well, that was all I had and I'm trying to get something together with more specifics, but I don't know, you know, if we'll have a specific building. And then curiously, I was giving our elderly cousin a ride to a doctor's appointment today. And her first job was for attorney Clarence Hawk. She worked for him from 1948 to 1950. And there was a man that would come into Clarence Hawk's office to talk with Clarence, just kind of conversationally, about the people that the man was picking up from the bus station to take them around for all the things they needed to get married in Bowling Green. And our cousin Susie Potter couldn't remember that man's name, but a couple of names I found associated with people who knew something about the marriage mill business were Louis Hang and Fuller, who owned a cab company in Bowling Green. So Louis Hang is dead and I'm sure Mr. Fuller is too. So I can't get specifics from them, but it's been kind of fun.
Where
just
did the
following this thread?
where did the term marriage mill come from?
So there was I think south of London, a place in England where people could get married easily. So that was called Gretna Green. And so in 1993, Pat Smith wrote an article about, that was called Gretna Green, Bowling Green, Gretna Green.
Hmm.
So, I don't know, Mill, I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I'll look that up too.
Okay.
And I gave you a copy. I have copies of the articles, two of them by Patricia Smith. It says marriage mill towns emerged as states change legal requirements for matrimony. The motivation for such changes began during the progressive era when women's groups and religious reformers became alarmed by the growing divorce rate. It's kind of interesting, all the history, but there's a list of other towns that were considered marriage mill towns. So there's not very many though. So I would say Bowling Green is unique in that aspect.
Not, yes, there was one in Angola, Indiana, and so there's a list actually in Pat Smith's article about, where they were in the United States. There was one in, I can't remember the other closest one, but a fun little story is that my first husband grew up next door to Pat Kane. And Rob's sister used to knock him down and hold him down so that Pat Kane could come over and kiss him. So, so when I get a chance to talk to Pat Smith, it'll be fun. I figure she may know specifics about houses too, because that isn't what her article dealt with, but, so, okay,
Interesting.
thanks for the
Thank you.
rabbit hole. It's been
Thank you.
I think I used that word earlier, didn't I?
Any other speakers today? You don't have to sign up. You can just,
But, yeah.
Yeah, the audience wants to.
right.
I'm Dale Arnold. I live on Ridgelands Prospect. And the first thing is 707, which was the article that the house was portrayed. Is it Mr. Chissenden?
Chittister? Mhm.
Chissenden. I looked up his obituary and it turns out that he was a member of our lodge and a 32nd degree Mason. That was on his obituary that wasn't in the article. The second thing is, and I sent this picture to, I wanted to find out how many mayors were members of our lodge. And I still got to do that after I go through them, but one of them for sure is Frank W. Haskell. There were two Haskells, I think, his father, and then later Frank, and Frank's the one that signed my book. So Van Tassel gave him the book. So I told you I'd leave you the book sometime. Okay. And I did find his picture. I don't know.
Oh, well.
He's in some of our old photos. This is a young picture. I think he was mayor from 20 to 20 and to 21 or 3. But he was born in 1902. Same year our lodge was built there, the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Any other comments? Okay.
Latest book to our city collection, Historical Highlights of Wood County by Charles Sumner Van Tassel, in case anybody wants to review that. It's obviously seen its day. And then here are copies of the latest ordinance. So if you remember the landscaping changes that are reflected, I thought you might want copies of that.
Great. Yes.
So I have that.
Thank you.
And I forgot one more thing. So we're members now of Heritage Ohio. And they sent us our first magazine. I may have emailed that to you though, and I can't remember. Revitalize Ohio.
Oh, I think
So I'm not sure if this is monthly or what it is or quarterly, but if you want to see that, I have a copy.
Great. This is the ultimate final
Yes.
ordinance, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Final version. Good. So I'm going to take a look at those before we leave. I think we are ready to adjourn. Do I have anybody that would like to? Suggest-
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye.